How we doing, guys?
Good.
Where's Terrence Williams' status today?
Terrence will not practice today. He's working on the side with our strength and conditioning staff.
Is there a health issue with him?
He's working his way through the foot injury that he had, and that's just what his status is. That's what he did yesterday as well.
Did he re-injure the foot? Because it seems that he was in pretty good shape. Wasn't any injury report, so did something happen?
He had feeling in his foot, and so that's why he is not practicing.
Has he saw second opinions on his foot? Or?
I don't know that.
When you look at your offense on the road, the first two games, even dating back to last year, it's kind of struggled. I think it's only one time you scored more than 20 points in a game. What are the difficulties in playing on the road, and how do you correct what's gone wrong?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest challenge that you have offensively when you're playing on the road is just the communication. Typically, you're playing in a louder stadium, and you just have to be able to handle the communication in the huddle at the line of scrimmage, be able to play with the same pace and tempo that you want to play when the environment's a little bit quieter. I think that's probably the biggest challenge that you have, and really it's for any team when they go on the road.
Did you find that to be evident in, I guess, 11 sacks in the 2 road games so far this season? Did you, going back and looking at that, did you feel that the noise impacted the communication there?
Yeah, again, I always think it challenges you. Typically the defensive linemen have an advantage in that situation, whether you're going on silent count or you're going on a verbal cadence. Maybe the guys on the edges don't hear it quite as well as they would at home. But again, you're going to play 8 games every year on the road, and we've played on the road before. We've played well on the road before. It's just something that we have to do a good job of, and that's the thing that you try to emphasize more than anything else. It's one of the reasons we have crowd noise at practice virtually every day, regardless of when and where we're playing the game. It's just important to be able to handle that stuff.
When you play up tempo, is that harder when it's louder, or is that because you're going faster? You're not sitting there and letting the crowd kind of build up.
Yeah, there's a lot of different theories on that about the impact of being in the huddle versus being at the line of scrimmage and crowd noise. Some people argue that when you're on the line of scrimmage, it's hard for an opposing crowd to maintain how loud they are, and it might be easier for them to get into a rhythm if you're in the huddle and then you come up and then they kind of raise the voice and all that kind of stuff. But people have been debating that for a lot of years in football.
What's your side of the debate?
I can see both sides of it. I think at the end of the day, when you execute well, that's what quiets the crowd more than anything else. The biggest thing that gets the crowd out of it is you running the ball successfully, completing passes successfully, and not giving them much to cheer about. So I think ultimately it comes down to execution. I do think I see both sides of those arguments, and we've used them both ways.
When you're trying to deal with up-tempo or no huddle, how much is analytics and what you put in on Wednesday, and how much is game day, in the moment feel?
If you're using no huddle or not using no huddle?
If you are.
Yeah, I think all of those things come into it, probably like a lot of decisions that you make. There's statistical evidence that you use going into a game, throughout a game, for most of the decisions that you make, and then it's just the instincts, the understanding of your team versus their team, matchups, situations, all of that.
Baseball managers have those analytical numbers in the dugout. They're looking at them, and how do you deal with that on game days? Is someone in your ear saying we should do this based on this analytically?
Yeah, again, there's a lot of information that you have going into a ball game, what you have done, what the other team has done, and all the different kinds of situations. And analytics, that's a big new word in sports here the last few years, but people have been doing tendencies in football and in baseball for a long, long time, and maybe because of the programs we have, the different information and how much more quickly we can get it. Maybe there's a lot more of it out there, but statistics and tendencies have been in all of sports for a long time. Typically, you have information going into a game, and then typically you accumulate information during the game, whether it's what you're doing on 1st and 10, what they're doing on 1st and 10, what you're doing from a particular personnel group, what they're doing to a particular personnel group. You can lay all that stuff together. You can say, if we're in this personnel group, in this situation, this is what they played last time, and hopefully you can use that information as the game goes on. But there are other ways that you make decisions as well, believing in what you do on both sides of the ball in the kicking game, seeing matchups that you like. So I think all of those things factor into how you make decisions.
You fire up the tape on Clowney and you see him bring pressure from 6 or 7 different spots. It seems like, I know it's not really a new phenomenon at this point, but how much more challenging is it, you know, with the way that defenders these days can kind of mix and match the way that guys like Clowney can?
Yeah, again, the challenge is the guy and where they put him in all the different spots. That's not a new phenomenon. People have been doing that with great rushers for a long, long time, and they do a really good job of it. And you said it, he's in different spots. He rushes really well from different spots. He makes a lot of plays from different spots. So, again, when you break the huddle or you're at the line of scrimmage, identifying where he is and how that triggers a protection you might be in, I think is critical. It goes back to that communication and getting everybody on the same page.
It seemed like every other week Lau Collins was facing a lead rusher last year. Where do you see him in his development second year as your right tackle?
I think he's doing really well, and you know, he's still a young player, but he's certainly handling the challenges that he faces every week really well. He's not perfect by any means, but he goes about it the right way. He learns from his experiences. He builds on the good. He learns from the bad and keeps going. He plays the game the right way. He's physical. He's tough. I think he's refining his technique. I think he's becoming a better protector with the experience that he has and with the coaching he's getting. He's very receptive to coaching, and again, I think he's learning from his experiences and improving every week.
How was David Irving in practice yesterday?
He was good. He got a lot of work in individual and also throughout the team periods, throughout practice, so it seemed like he handled it well.
Will he do even more today?
We'll see. We'll see what he's able to do, but he looked like he was moving around pretty well this morning, so optimistic about him being able to have a fairly complete practice today.
Defense kept the Lions to -1 rushing yards in the third quarter. Looking ahead to Houston, what challenges does Lamar Miller and Deshaun Watson present in the Texans running game?
A lot of challenges. They're a really good zone running team. He's a really good zone running back, but they also do a lot of other things that challenge you in the running game. And you mentioned the quarterback is such a threat as well, so that makes the running back that much more of a threat because you have to deal with the quarterback and some of the quarterback runs they use and giving him some attention. So typically that softens the interior of your defense a little bit. And you know, those guys are very dynamic together. They do a lot of different things with them and challenge you a lot of different ways.
Thank you.
All right, good to see you guys.
See you too, Coach.
See you, Coach.
Don't have enough yet, Coach.